guys, we're going to be working on today is our Emoji Pop Art Lesson. These are the things that you're going to need. You're going to need a few pieces of paper. I'm using the larger ones that we have from school just because I had some laying around. But you can use computer paper, but you are going to need a few pieces of it. You're going to need a pencil, a sharpener, an eraser, some colored pencils or something that you can blend with. Crayons are fine too, or oil pastels. The markers are going to be used for the background to create a contrast for your emojis. So make sure that you have two different materials going on. You're going to need some type of reference. So I printed one out. This is the one I'm going to show you today. But you do not need to necessarily print it out. You can just use like a reference from your phone or from the computer. There is a bunch of examples in the document that I attached to the Google Classroom. So you're going to need something for a reference. So don't just try to wing it there. And then you're going to need something to trace, which I'll show you how to do this, okay? So firstly, we're going to make a square. So the way that I did that was I took my top corner of my larger piece of paper and I'm folding it down so that it creates a triangle with the bottom of my paper. And I'm just going to create a light line with my pencil that I can then cut out, okay? So that'll create my square. Now, in order to decide how big we need our tracing piece to be, we're going to fold our square into 4 pieces. So instead of folding it diagonally, we're going to fold it in half, both ways. Remember to line that edge up as you are folding. You want to hold the side of the paper that is lining up, and then you can press that bubble down. Okay? So now we have our 4 quadrants of our square. I chose this bowl because it fits pretty perfectly inside of one of these squares, and that's what you're going to base your choice of your template or your whatever you're tracing on because it's fitting inside. You don't want it to touch the edges because you want to make sure that whatever material you use in the background is actually going to be seen, so you want to make sure that it's a little bit smaller than that square. Next, you're going to use your template to trace. Now, I'm just using the scrap of that paper. But you're going to need to trace 4 of those circles. Now, I'm going to trace all of them, but I'm not going to cut them out until after they're all done because you're going to see that some of those emojis actually do not stay inside of the circle. So for my emoji that I'm going to be doing, the eye roll emoji, I'm going to use my pencil and look at what shapes are inside of our emoji, okay? So we have 2 larger circles with 2 smaller inside, so let's do that. So you can get something smaller to trace. If you wanted to freehand it like I'm doing, that's fine. Maybe get like a quarter or something smaller in the kitchen maybe that would have a smaller round shape, okay? And the circles are at the top of our white circles, our black ones there, for our pupils of our character, okay? Now this is not gonna look exactly like the emoji because this is your own creation and these are made digitally, so you wanna make sure that you're getting as close as you can, but just know that it's okay if it doesn't look exactly the same. So we kind of have this like little sort of like Mike and Ike or like a long jelly bean type of situation at the bottom. So that's what I'm putting there. Now, as I said, I'm going to make sure that all of the colors are put onto our surface before we're cutting it out. And I wanted to do this demonstration because this is one of the parts that is very important for this project because we want to make sure that we're using colors that are analogous to each other. Analogous means that they are right next to each other on the color wheel. So analogous means next to, okay? So we want to, where'd it go? Okay, We want to make sure that all of the colors that we're choosing is analogous. We have our bright yellow, and then it gets a little bit darker as it goes to the edge. So that's why I chose the orange. So even though like you might consider the emoji yellow, we do have the shadow of the emoji to make it look more 3D to be an orange color. And I'm also using black for our pupils. And then I have two different color browns because the mouth is a brown color. Okay, so let's get started. So I want to do the darkest color first because I want to make sure that they're all done, and especially because it's the smallest piece. So I'm just going to do the pupils. I'm tracing the outside, and I'm pressing fairly hard here because I want that dark black to happen. Okay, and as you can see around the edges of the eyes, there's a little bit of a black shadow because the circle of the eye is actually sitting on top of the yellow one. So it's casting a shadow on the side. So what you're gonna do is you're going to press lightly around that circle with the black. And you can use a tissue or your finger. I'm just gonna use my finger because I don't have one right now over there. And I'm just gonna kind of smudge it out. Now, the colored pencils are a little bit harder to smudge because of how thick the lead is. But you wanna make sure that you're basically just creating a black line around the edge and then a slightly lighter gray color. So you can press lighter with the pencil on the inside. And a good tip here too is when you are deciding if it's shaded enough or if it is dark enough, a trick that you can use, trying to get the outside of the circle, a trick that you can use is actually set it up a little bit further away from you. Like lean it on a counter or whatever and step away from it, because as you get further away from the object, the shadows will show a lot better. And that's when you can see too whether or not you have enough shadow going on. So I have my line and I'm just making a slightly lighter gray on the inside. I'm gonna use my finger just to smudge it out a little bit, correct anything, and lighten it with the eraser. Okay, and your fingers are going to get a little bit dirty, but that's okay because it's just lead. Okay, now I'm going to do the other shapes that I have here at the bottom. So I'm going to start with my lighter brown just to give it one coat of the pencil. And then as it gets a little bit darker towards the top of the mouth, I'm just going to create a layering with the other color. Now these colors would be considered analogous as well, because they are right next to each other in the neutral color wheel. They're not, brown is not on the color wheel, but they are considered analogous because they're right next to each other. So we have both our smaller objects going on in there. Now with the background, we're going to start with the lighter color. I'm going to color this entire piece with our yellow. And remember, you want to stay in fairly the same direction the whole time. Be careful there's not anything under your paper. And this is also good because you can go right outside that circle and nobody will know because we're going to cut it right out. So it doesn't matter. And I'm going fairly quickly, but I want you to take your time because we want to make sure that we're getting in all of the spaces. And making sure that it is the correct color. And especially when we're getting close to like the darker edge of our eyes here, we want to make sure that we're being careful and not going like inside our eye or anything like that. Now we were talking about shading just a little bit, but we want to make sure that all of the emojis that you're drawing, because you're going to choose 4 different ones, because in pop art it's all about repetition. So in this case, we're not repeating the same shape. We're actually going to create a different collage of 4 different emojis that you consider your favorite or the most interesting. In a little bit, I'm going to show you some other ones that I did that you can choose from too. And I like to think about like different colors. Like if you're kind of bored with just the yellow emojis, then you can absolutely choose another color. Now, just like with the eyes, I'm going to go around the outside of my circle with the orange. And as I'm getting into the yellow area, closer to the yellow piece, I'm going to get a little bit lighter with the pressure, because see how it goes from dark to light? We want to make sure that there's an orange and then a medium orange and then the yellow. So it's kind of like the orange mixed together. So we have our orange, our yellow orange, and our yellow. So that's why they're considered analogous on the color wheel, because they're right next to each other. Because orange and yellow create yellow-orange, which is called a tertiary color. So I'm doing the darker edge. I can always get darker, but I can never, not never, but I can, it's really hard to get a lighter color, especially with colored pencils, because some of the time the eraser does not help us out. So you want to make sure that you're going pretty light to start. And then as you look at it again, you're going to decide if it needs to be darker or not. Now notice I'm rotating my paper. I'm not rotating my arm because that'll be uncomfortable. We want to make sure that we can get every space the same amount. So see here, this is where I started. So I'm going to actually go a little bit darker going on up here. Okay. Now, I did that with just 2 different colored pencils, but I do have a yellow-orange colored pencil too. So if I wanted to go in and create that middle color next to the orange, then I can do that too. But if you don't have the color, it's okay. All you have to do is blend those colors together. Okay, now right below our eyes, remember last time when I said that there is actually the eye on top of the background? So because the shape is on top of the eye, we want to make sure that we're going to do a slightly darker orange underneath the eye and the mouth as well, because then that'll look like, I'm still working with my yellow orange here. I don't know why. Should have switched. So I'm just creating a little bit of a shadow as if the light is coming from above. Because the shadow is always on the opposite side, right? Okay. It kind of looks like he has a little bit of a baggy eye situation. So let's add some yellow. You can go back and go over anything that you want to brighten up with the yellow and make sure that it is fairly dark so that we're trying to get as close to this color as we can. So in this case, you can't really go in this direction. It's a little bit tougher, so you can change the direction of your pencil there. But you also ultimately want to make sure that you're going in the same direction most of the time with your colored pencil to create that same pattern with the pencil and the same line, creating a cohesive coloring all across the whole piece, okay? So when you're all done, almost, okay, we're going to cut that guy out. So in this case, mine is just a circle, so I'm going to carefully cut out my emoji. And if it had anything that was hanging off it, then I could cut that out as well. So I cut out my emoji there. Now, as I said before, we chose this template to make sure that these circles fit inside of our square. Now what we're gonna do with our squares after we have 4 of our emojis cut is actually color this in a block pattern. So you're gonna just pick 4 colors to go in each of them, which I have right here. I even put a black border on there. You don't have to do that, but you can if you want. So I just chose 4 random colors, and I also created a bunch of different emoji options. And when you are shading ones that are like not the yellow with the orange, so these are all in the yellow-orange family, you want to make sure that you're still thinking about your analogous colors. So I chose the black and the gray here and a little bit of the silver to go in there. And I also chose this like blue-gray just because in the example of it, it did look like a slightly light blue color. But you can choose like whatever colors you want. So if this one was yellow, you can make it green. It doesn't matter. And I made a little bit darker there. With the devil here, we made sure that we had the pinks and the purples, but you want to stick to your analogous colors, so colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel, okay? And in the document, we also have examples of that too, and we're talking about complementary colors. So if we were to decide where this one was going to go, maybe because it has orange in it, we would put it in the blue. Whereas with my red, I would put it in the green. So they just kind of make it pop a little bit more. This one has a lot of pink in it, so I probably wouldn't put it here. But we can always choose the different colors. So if I put that guy up here, yeah, you decide. So I just kind of made a bunch of different ones. You only have to make 4 to be able to fit into your pattern. So just like Andy Warhol in the document, it is just like our pop art artist. So this would be something that could hang right next to Andy Warhol. So what you're going to do is either tape or glue those down right inside. Okay? I hope you have fun. I miss you guys.